Hi everyone, welcome to FCK Ingenious Reviews. We are going to finish our reviews of Lord of the Rings of Power. The series had its finale this week, and unfortunately, because I was sick, I wasn't able to review the previous two episodes. So I'm rolling this all into one kind of overall season finale kind of review. We'll cover, some topics, maybe some things that happened in the previous two episodes as well. But for the most part, we're just going to wrap up the season here in this review. But yeah, thank God this season is over. It was one thing to be sick, and then it was another thing to have to watch this show, because that was just making it 10 times worse. I didn't like the first season of this show. I kind of went into why in the previous, episodes of this review series. But this season has been so much worse, primarily because it has all the weaknesses from a writing and technical point of view that the first season had. But the lore has just gone to absolute hell in the second season. Not that the first season was particularly great at this, but it's just it doesn't make any sense. Straight up, I give this show an F. I mean, this is probably one of the worst shows I've ever watched in my life, and I'm not exaggerating. Just because it tries to present itself as something that's highly artistic, well made, it's prestigious, to use the term of the day, and it's everything besides that. It's everything besides all of those things. It is, from a lore point of view, it is just a complete and total failure of everything that Tolkien's vision was. It's a complete reimagination of Tolkien's world, which is fine. It's not that you can't do that. If you're making an adaptation of another work of art, in this case Tolkien's books, then you have leeway to add your own vision to them. I'm not saying that. My issue is that these guys want to copy, they want to ape, they want to imitate everything about Tolkien's books and, of course, Peter Jackson's movies without paying the due respect to those properties. They just want to be an imitation of them, but they don't want to follow any of the rules that the previous works of art laid out. And to me, it just comes across as straight up disrespectful. This entire project. It's funny. I saw a quote where I think Benjamin Walker was saying, the guy who plays Gil-galad in this, he was saying one of his favorite Tolkien quotes is, evil cannot create, it can only create a mockery or whatever. Tolkien says that in the books, particularly in relation to the orcs. And that sums up this series so well. It is a mockery of Lord of the Rings, of what Tolkien's vision of Middle Earth is and was. It's just so far off base. So ironically, that's the best quote maybe I've heard to summarize this entire project. It's mockery. That's it. The other problematic area, besides just Tolkien's lore, of course, and it's really the central problem with the show altogether, is that the writing is just so fantastically bad in this entire series. You can tell that there isn't much cohesiveness amongst the writing group, that they're just kind of making up stuff, as they go along, that they don't have a long-term vision. And it's mostly, hey, what can we do to kind of sell the idea of this show to the audience in this moment? There's no cohesive, singular thought. And this is a problem that all major kind of IP has these days, whether you're talking about Star Wars, Star Trek, any of these like kind of fantasy franchises. They all have the same issue. They don't invest in writing and cohesive storytelling. And boy, does the show in this program. It's also cheaply made. And I don't mean like the design, costume designs and sets, that's fine. They obviously put a lot of money in that. But the writing, the dialogue, the acting, so many, as I mentioned earlier, so many of the characters just feel so poorly cast. And even the ones that are properly cast, I think everyone, has enjoyed Charlie Vickers as Sauron. But, what can any actor do with such low quality material to work with? You could give Ian McKellen, all these dialogues that this Gandalf has, and he couldn't do anything with it. No one can. The quality is so low that even the best actor can't do anything with it. So it's an all-around technical shit show. This entire show, it has very little thought put into it, and it shows in every single frame of this show. So let's move theater by theater throughout Middle Earth, and for the last 3 episodes, the majority of time we spend is in Eregion, and of course setting up the siege of Eregion. Before I forget, this review is full of spoilers, so if you don't want any spoilage, whether if it's this season or what will happen in future seasons, then you probably don't want to watch. I don't want to ruin things for you. I don't encourage you to watch the show, but going forward. But hey, if you plan to, then don't let me ruin things for you. But yeah, the action is mostly in Eregion for the last 3 episodes, and that at least makes sense because it's a siege of Eregion, excuse me, and it's one of the most momentous occasions in Middle Earth's history, particularly the Second Age. But again, the problem is it's all poorly done. None of it feels affecting. None of it feels particularly heartfelt. I did have a favorite moment of this entire Eregion arc, and probably maybe my favorite moment of the season was Mirdania dying. I hate to say that because you don't want to supposedly root for one of the good guys to die, but that just made me laugh out loud when that happened. That sums up the show for me in a nutshell. I'd rather see the elves die than anything else. It made me laugh out loud inappropriately when that happened. It's a summation of the show altogether. But getting back to the siege, I'm getting ahead of myself. Getting back to the siege itself, so we see that Adar is falling into Sauron's trap by bringing his orc army to the threshold of Eregion, and Sauron, we are told, will take advantage of that and make the army his own. That's nothing like how it was in the books. The Siege of Eregion was a show of power by Sauron, and to just kind of show that Sauron was, he's just pulling puppet strings in the background, and he just happens to luck into Adar, bring him the army he needs. I mean, it misses the point of the Siege of Eregion altogether, and what it was supposed to do, what it was supposed to accomplish. But again, that goes hand in hand with all the clumsiness in the show. But then the siege starts. You could totally tell they're going for the Battle of Helm's Deep as far as what they're trying to mimic and emulate with this battle. That the elves are in this fortified position here in Eregion, and you have this attacking orc army that's trying to break down the walls and trying to get into the fortification, into the stronghold. In this case, instead of men of the Rohirrim, of the elves. But yeah, you could see all the hallmarks of what they were trying to mimic, and it just came out so poorly. Even down to the cavalry charge, just like the Rohirrim do with Gandalf in the films, if you remember. Gandalf comes at dawn and leads Aomer and company into a charge, to come to the rescue of Helm's Deep. And then you see them doing that this time. I think it was with Elrond at the front. He's charging to save Eregion. And then all of a sudden, they just perfectly have Galadriel positioned right at the front there in the center, to use as, bait, or to use as kind of, hey, don't attack us, otherwise she's dead. I mean, it's just so stupidly done. In a battlefield, you're not going to have that level of organization to know where to put someone exactly to stop the oncoming charge. It's so stupid. It's something that you would have never seen in Peter Jackson's movies. Whatever criticisms, hardcore Tolkien fans have of Jackson's movies, it mostly has to do with lore and kind of changing some things they felt, shouldn't have been changed, particularly like elves at Helm's Deep, right? There's a reason why there shouldn't have been elves at Helm's Deep, and that's a very valid criticism. I can personally overlook that because I still enjoy the movies so much. It didn't change my overall opinion of them. It is, something I wish they hadn't done, but I understand why they did it. But getting back to this, the things that they're changing just don't make sense. Jackson's films, whatever changes they made, they didn't at least make the movie terrible, right? They didn't overall say, oh man, this is such a stupid scene. It might not be correct according to lore, but it wasn't stupid. Having Galadriel there, as kind of bait in the middle of the orc army just makes zero sense whatsoever, logically. Having them charging down and then stop as soon as they see Galadriel. It's poor writing, and it's poor scene construction, and it's just poorly thought out from beginning to end. And another problem, for example, with the siege, at least from the orc army's perspective, on the outside perspective, they have trebuchets that are trying to knock down the friggin' mountains, around Eregion. And those mountains are like a mile away. I don't know how that works. I'm pretty good at physics, and I have no idea how you knock down a mountain like that with a little trebuchet from a mile away. Trebuchets can do some damage, I'm not saying that, but to knock over a mountain, I don't know about all that nonsense. That doesn't fly. And it's just more poor storytelling. It's like, hey, we have to figure out a way to make this work so that we can get to the next plot point. So, hey, let's just knock down the friggin' mountain with a trebuchet a mile away. That's exactly what they do. This is the MO of this show. It doesn't have to make sense. We just need to get to our next plot point. And it's the type of shitty writing that's emblematic of this show. So this is all of what's going on outside, in the outside part of the siege. Now we go to the inside Eregion itself, and we see the elves just scrambling as a madhouse, and everyone's just like, what can we do? These are elves, they're the highest beings in Middle Earth, of all of the children of Eru. They are kind of like the chosen ones, right? And they're walking, they're running around like, oh, what are we gonna do? Somebody save us! And it is so unelf-like, the behavior that they're showing. Think back to Jackson's films, even think back to the Hobbit trilogy, which everyone I think pretty much agrees were poorly made. You don't see elves acting stupid, at least. Like that. Like they act and behave like elves still, even if they went a little over top, maybe with Legolas and his gravity-defying abilities. But there was consistent behavior with elves. Here, they're just humans. They're just like, they behave like humans with their heads chopped off, like chickens with their heads chopped off, right? And like just scurrying around. Like that's not how elves behave. That's not how we've seen in literature, in previous films. It's so It takes you out of that moment when you see it. It's like, I'm not watching Middle-earth. I'm not watching Tolkien's creation. I'm watching just some random high fantasy show with Tolkien's label on it. And it's such a shame to see how they created the Siege of Eregion and portrayed it like that. It's just, it's bad filmmaking. You did not believe for a second that you're watching elves in Eregion. And from there we go inside further to Celebrimbor's Forge, where he and Sauron are having their thing. He's manipulating. Sauron is manipulating Celebrimbor, giving him visions of everything being peaceful and quiet. Which, you know, Sauron was just like the master of illusions and deception, blah blah, all that good stuff. So that's where they're, you know, that's the basis of them using that idea that, you know, yeah, Sauron's deceiving him and, you know, creating illusions for him. And, you know, he's like sitting there drinking his coffee or tea on the balcony like, yeah, everything's real good. Celebrimbor, right? He's just, it's a beautiful day. And, you know, in reality, like, the city's falling apart, everyone's screaming, you know, and running around. It's just, you know, I guess that could work, but I didn't find it believable. It wasn't a good way to tell that story, you know, just like that. And again, from the beginning, I have hated how they've done Celebrimbor's character in this show. It's so poorly done. This interpretation of Celebrimbor is so poor. Yes, Celebrimbor got fooled by Sauron. He got duped by Sauron, you know, into, of course, making the rings and being his accomplice in a way. But he wasn't so feckless. He was never, ever so dumb and feckless in literature, in the books. I made an allusion to this, I think, in one of the previous videos. There's a game called Middle-earth Shadow of War. Video game maybe came out like 8 years ago or something like that. Role-playing game, you know, where you're playing a ranger of the north who's fighting Mordor with Celebrimbor's ghost's help. And I'm sure a lot of you play this game. You know, a lot of you probably are, you know, hardcore Tolkien fans and would play that game. I love playing the game. The lore is complete garbage in that game. Like, you have Sexy Shelob, for example. I mean, I can't think of a better example of Sexy Shelob than what that game does to lore, to Tolkien's lore. And, you know, even with that being the case, I still enjoy playing that game, and I'll play that game, replay that game like once a year at least, just because it's so much fun to be in that world. You know, all I have to tell myself is, okay, the lore is just kind of like make-believe, you know, just have fun with it. Okay, Sexy Shelob's here, why not? I can disassociate the lore from that because at least it's still a well-constructed world with what they've done. It's a fun world to go play in, to inhabit, even with all that. And the Celebrimbor in there is, you know, Celebrimbor as you imagine, minus, you know, the lore kind of stuff that they changed. Again, you know, forget that. But at least the Celebrimbor that they portray is like, yeah, that's Celebrimbor. That's what you would expect. You know, he's kind of a badass. You know, he's a tough guy. But yeah, he also got duped by Sauron. So there's that too. But, you know, he wasn't this like pansy-ass dude who just like, oh, I'm just sipping my coffee, having a good old time while the Dark Lord is, you know, doing, you know, his fun stuff in the streets, you know, of Eregion. That's the problem. You know, even if the lore is not good, you can still create a fun world to inhabit separate from that. And what the show just doesn't do it. I could still find a way to enjoy the show with the lore being as bad as it is if they still constructed and wrote a fun world to inhabit, and they so totally failed to do that. But yeah, if you ever get a chance, play that game, Shadow of War, Middle-earth. It's a lot of fun. Again, lore scrap. Ignore the lore. But, you know, the game itself, I think, is a lot of fun to play. It's a lot of fun to be inside of Tolkien's world, you know, and just mess around in there. So I definitely recommend that game. But getting back to where we were, yeah, just Celebrimbor is just such a terrible character in this, in my opinion. And I think Charlie Vickers does a good job as Sauron in this. I don't have much nitpicking as far as what he's done with the character. But again, when the show is just so poorly written, there's not much for him to do. And that there's not much that he can do to prop things up. So by the end of the season's arc, we just see Sauron using Celebrimbor as a pincushion, and that is kind of the what happens in the real lore, where Celebrimbor gets shot with arrows and gets hoisted up on a pole for all to see. Granted, I think this was in his forge instead of outside for everyone to see, but they make an entire show of it in the books, of parading his body and letting them know that Celebrimbor has fallen, and we made an ass out of him. But here it's kind of hidden in his forge, but fine, that's okay. But I should have felt something when Celebrimbor died, and it was just like, whatever, who cares? Next scene. You didn't feel anything when Celebrimbor was killed, and that's an indictment on the writing. That's an indictment on the writers and how they shaped the character of Celebrimbor. Same thing with, as I was telling you, where the beginning, where we started, that Mirdania died, and it was hilarious. Mirdania should not have been some prop character who we see fall over the stupid wall and get chopped up by an orc and be like, ha ha ha. That's the reason that's funny, is because she was such a shit character that was so poorly written that when she died, you're like, all right, finally. And it was done in such a stupid way too. So that's just poor writing, period. These writers have done absolutely no justice with the elves whatsoever. Boy, that's the worst part of this show, unfortunately. The elves aren't the elves in this show, and I don't know what else I could say. That's just the elves should be the start of the show, but they're just a bunch of blubbering idiots in this. And I haven't even gotten to, I guess, Galadriel fighting Sauron at the end, but that was such a waste of time, and there was no tension there because we know neither can die. So we're just doing calisthenics here by having them fight and having this romance between them in the air. I don't know what kind of crap they're showing. It's also terrible. It's so unnecessary. This is a bad show. I've said that 1,000 times. I'm not adding anything new there. All right, so let's go over a little bit to the dwarves in Khazad-dûm. They just keep getting stupider and stupider with every episode. Which is such a shame, because the dwarves, out of any group in this show, have the highest potential. Like, if you just made a show with the dwarves, you took the dwarves from the show and just made their own spin-off, they would actually have the highest potential to do that series well. Just because the characters, I think, are slightly better written and better acted, better casted. So there's potential there. But the problem is, you still have crappy writing. And we see that, I remember in episode 6, for example, we get that stupid Batgirl scene from Disa. It's like she can summon bats and, fling them towards towards the other dwarves. That's such a stupid scene. Again, dwarves and living things don't really go together. They have, I don't want to say command over the earth, but they have some kind of power to manipulate the earth. They don't have the power to manipulate living things, really. That's pretty clear in the lore. It's just such a stupid scene, and it's so symbolic of everything else in the show. But it's such a shame, because Disa and both Durins could have been just absolutely terrific characters in the right hands. There's a lot of potential there, but you just have shit writers letting them down scene after scene. With older Durin, we see that his ring is basically the One Ring. It has the same damn effect as the One Ring itself, which should not be the case. The Dwarven rings were not the One Ring. The Elven rings were not the One Ring. And the 9 rings of men were not the One Ring. The One Ring was unique. Its effects were unique. It was created for domination. It was created for Sauron. So it was so stupid to see Elder Durin's scenes where they're trying to show that, hey, he's wearing the ring. It's affecting him like Frodo or Gollum or Bilbo. The same way the One Ring affected them, it's affecting Durin. You can see that. It's a complete and utter failure of understanding Tolkien's lore, what the rings do, because the rings were not supposed to have a huge effect on the dwarves. The dwarves were of sturdier stock. They were kind of made from the earth itself. So the rings did not have that kind of effect on them as it did, especially on other races. And if anything, it just made them greedier, right? Which they show that, it does make Elder Durin greedier. But they just took it way too far in showing that, it's having those One Ring effects on him. And it completely destroyed the dwarves' arc in this season, them choosing to go that route, and them choosing to use that to create friction between younger Durin and elder Durin. It was just really, really poor. And maybe they could have still salvaged it, in the last episode by, doing something cool with the Balrog. And, we see that Balrog come Durin, sacrificing himself to go fight it. It's a cool scene, but it only lasts a minute, 2 minutes. I don't know. And that was it. And that was it with the Balrog, and you don't get that emotional payoff really. Since the end of last season, we're building up to seeing that Balrog, and we only get it for a minute, literally, and that's it. So there's no emotional payoff there with Elder Durin kind of sacrificing himself. And then, we come back afterwards real quick to see younger Durin. Now he's, I guess, going to be king, but he still won't come out to fight. He won't act like a king. He won't come out to help Elrond himself. He sends, I guess, some of the dwarves to Rhuidean to help out, but that didn't make any sense. And, the dwarves came out to Rhuidean to save the elves, and that's why some of them were able to escape to Rivendell in the first place, because the dwarves came. And to just kind of show it so half-assed was such a shame. It did not do justice to younger Durin's character at all, and they really screwed up that arc for sure. They could have turned younger Durin kind of into a forceful character, a strong character. But what you can see they're going to do, they out of nowhere they brought out a younger brother or older brother. I don't know what, younger or older, but apparently Durin has a brother. So I don't know where the hell he came from, because I've never read about there being a brother there. But he's going to claim the throne now, and there's going to be tension there. It's just a stupid plot device they're creating for no reason. And we're going to devolve into some low-level Game of Thrones crap, I'm sure. That's what they're aiming to do. Rather than develop younger Durin into a strong character, we're just going to see pissy infighting. That's the way they're going. And, from all that, they've completely ruined the dwarves' arc altogether. The dwarves could easily be the best part of this show, and maybe they still are, which isn't saying a whole lot. But you could easily have just a Khazad-dûm show by itself, a spin-off, and it could excel very easily with the right, caretakers, with good writers, with good actors, which, I think these actors are fine. I don't have any issue with them for the dwarves. But yeah, it's just, the writing is so crap, and they screwed up the dwarves' arc completely, and it's such a shame. There was a lot of potential there. So let's swing over to Numenor now, where we get a little pissy infighting going on there, between Muriel and Farazan, and the people change their minds every 2 minutes. based on some ridiculous piece of evidence that no, Ar-Pharazôn is the king. No, actually Muriel is the king. We see stupid like trial by combats like that. Underwater, whatever the hell it is, squid or I don't know what, a kraken that, you know, Muriel is supposed to, I don't know, dominate or whatever, or I don't know what the point of that was. But either way, she's spit up by the sea and all of a sudden she's worthy of being the queen there. So I don't know what the hell the point of that was, but in the next episode, then we see that Ar-Pharazôn comes up with a list that, you know, shows how Muriel and the elf friends are collaborating with Sauron. So the people again switch back to Pharazôn, and it just goes on and on. It's so stupid. The Numenor arc is so dumb. In a better show, we probably wouldn't have even seen the Numenorians until maybe the third season because they're just not needed. If you look at it, the Numenorians have not accomplished a single damn thing through 2 seasons. There was no reason for them to be there. Imagine if they had mostly just focused on Eregion, and then you can also have thrown the dwarves in there, you know, for the first 2 seasons. And in the third season, you could start expanding the map by, you know, including Numenor and seeing how those the politics of Numenor are, you know, coming in with what's going on in Eregion and the rest of Middle Earth, right? But because the show loves to splinter every little group off and to show, we have to show every single race you can think of in Middle Earth, we've wasted so much time on unnecessary characters, on unnecessary character development. And the entire Numenor arc is completely useless. We haven't accomplished anything. We see Pelargir for 5 minutes with Theo and I think Pharazôn's son Kemen, and Isildur's over there. We got some stupid love triangle with him and I think Astrid or whoever the hell, whatever the hell her name is, I don't care. But nothing is accomplished there. Basically, the Numenorians, Kemen comes over and takes over in the name of his father. Nobody cares. And that's just another side distraction. I mean, you know what's coming with the Numenorians. Again, all kinds of spoilers coming up here, but yeah, they're going to come fight Sauron here shortly after, you know, the sacking of Eregion. There's going to be a show forced by the Numenorians. But it's so deeply uninteresting, and I don't care because I know these show runners and these writers are completely incompetent and incapable of doing any kind of justice to that story. So it doesn't matter. I'm completely out on Numenor. I don't care. And our final theater of action is Rhûn, where we don't spend too much time last couple episodes. We just see Bombadil turning into some combination of Obi-Wan and Yoda. They have to show Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and they can't think beyond that, I guess. So we have to have the hero, in this case Gandalf, get taught by an old wise man, who in this case would be Bombadil. And he has to give him the knowledge to help him on his journey to be the hero, to conquer evil. And that's all Bombadil is here. He's the old wise man to move the plot along, to help the hero along. And that is so not what Bombadil ever was in the books. He was never intended to be that kind of character. Bombadil didn't really care about what was going on in Middle Earth. He was separate from all that. This is such a stupid interpretation of Bombadil. Boy, they failed big time on this. I mean, they failed everything in the show. There's nothing they succeeded at. But boy, I remember how excited everybody was at the thought of Bombadil being on the show. And, you know, like, oh, we're finally going to see Bombadil on the screen. And yeah, they screwed the pooch there. And boy, did they ever completely screw it. We find out that all along Gandalf was supposed to save his friends. He was never supposed to, betray his friends. He was always supposed to go after them, and that's what Bombadil wanted all along, which is such a stupid and tired plot, and we didn't need that. Nobody needed that. And this entire show would have been so much better without the hobbits. The hobbits didn't need to be in there because hobbits aren't around in the Second Age. They only show up like 1,000 years into the First Age, if my memory serves me correctly, or something like that. But yeah, we don't need the hobbits at all. Nothing happens. I guess we meet Saruman. It's going to be Saruman, the Dark Wizard, because they keep using old friend, like they did in the movies. So that the Dark Wizard will be Saruman. Why it will be Saruman, I have no idea. Why Gandalf will trust Saruman after this, I have no idea, because remember, Saruman is Gandalf's leader. He's the leader of all the Istari, of the 5 wizards who come to Middle Earth. So how their relationship is going to be ruined, by this fighting already. So how on earth are they going to get along and have the White Council in the Third Age and all that stuff? How are they going to accomplish anything together? I have no idea. None of this makes any logical sense. But that's par for the course here. I have no idea what they're doing with Gandalf, with Saruman, with the hobbits. I was excited to see Rune, because that's a place we haven't gotten to occupy on screen yet. So there's a lot of possibility there, as far as what you could do and what you could show. But there's nothing that they did with it that was worthwhile. It was all a waste of time. You can play Rune a little bit in Shadow of War, that game I was talking about earlier. So, kind of a little fun there if you want to check out Rune. But this show didn't do anything with it. The entire plot, if you want to call it a plot, was an entire waste of time for everybody. Gandalf shouldn't be in the show at all. The Hobbit shouldn't be in the show at all. Saruman shouldn't be in the show at all. But if you wanted to put the wizards in there, I guess there was a way, even with breaking the timeline, but this wasn't it. But my hope is at least we've gotten rid of the hobbits permanently now, because we see them shuffle off and go in their own way. So maybe we'll never see the hobbits again. That's unlikely, because we know how these showrunners work, so they have to have hobbits, so they'll bring them back, I'm guessing. But the best thing they could do is just flush the hobbits out of this show now. And I guess just follow Gandalf on whatever he's doing. But yeah, no good. So bringing all the characters and all of the theaters and scenes together, this show is just, it's going nowhere. It's so bad. It's got no future whatsoever. I don't want to review this show anymore. I didn't want to do this one, but for the sake of completeness, I'm doing it. If they have a 3rd season, I might just do like one single review for the entire season if I feel like it. I don't know. I don't even want to watch it, to be honest. I don't want to watch the 3rd season, because none of this is Tolkien. And even if it's not Tolkien, what it is poorly written. It's poor fantasy. It's poor high fantasy. And there's no reason to watch this show. As a Tolkien fan, there's no reason to watch the show. As a fan of fantasy, there's no reason to watch the show. It's a dime a dozen cheap quality fantasy. So I don't want to watch the 3rd season. I don't think you should either, but hey, that's up to you, right? But if I guess if I'm doing reviews around there, then maybe I'll do a season 3 overall review, but I'm not doing it episode by episode. It's not fun. This is a joyless show to watch, and I did not enjoy it. I was struggling to get through it. I was sick for the final 3 episodes, and it was such a chore to watch them and get through them. So I can't recommend this show to anybody. Don't watch this show. If you've watched this enough of this review, then you probably already agree with me. But if you do enjoy the show, I mean, I guess watch it because you enjoy it, and you shouldn't be shamed into not enjoying something, even if I disagree with you. But at the same time, there's so much better stuff out there. And I've already got like the next 3 or 4 things I'm going to review lined up. I've got that in my head, and I'm so excited to do those things because they're good. Like I can't wait to do those reviews and talk about those shows, those movies with you guys, because they're well done, and I want to share them with you. But when it comes time for me to do the reviews of this, it's just like, man, I don't want to do this. This is depressing, and it doesn't get me excited because I know it's bad. So, I guess that's one good thing to look forward to now. We're gonna do some more reviews here of different things, and it's gonna be good. And it won't be, an hour of me sitting here bitching and complaining about every little thing that's going on, because it will actually have been well made. So, at least we have that to look forward to. But yeah, my overall recommendation for this show is don't watch it. I would grade it as an F. It's a complete and total colossal failure across the board. There's nothing redeeming about it whatsoever. So watch something else, watch something better, watch Peter Jackson's movies, read Tolkien's books. That's all you need. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this episode of FCK Ingenious Reviews. I wish I could say I enjoyed doing this series, but I didn't. But we will do those other series upcoming, and those will be a lot more fun, I guarantee. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Please honor us by hitting that subscribe button if you like this video.